What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right. So I was just in Ticket TV's chat. He was talking about this story involving Anthony Edwards of the Minnesota Timberwolves, where he said that he will try football if he wins an NBA title. So he says, trying to look at this article here. Long before he rose to prominence as an NBA star with the Timberwolves, Anthony Edwards dominated the football field as a youth and Pop Warner. In fact, Edwards was so good that he drew comparisons to a young Michael Vick. Now it appears he is open to the idea of taking another shot at the gridiron. In a video released by ESPN, which promotes an upcoming story, Edwards said, quote, "Football players can't go play basketball. No way. I told my buddies, I said, if I win a ring in the next 3 to 4 years, I'm going to play football." Well, first of all, I don't agree with that football players can't go play basketball. He must have never seen a young Terrell Owens. So that's not true. And there are other football players who I just can't think of at the moment who could play basketball. Oh, another one who come to mind, who I know this is bullshit, Randy Moss. If I'm not mistaken, didn't Randy Moss play college ball with a young Jason Williams in West Virginia? I'm not having a false memory of that, am I? Okay, another guy that I think played basketball when he was in college, or at least high school, but I think college. Didn't David Boston, the wide receiver, play basketball? I think he did. I know the first two that I called out did, Randy Moss and Terrell Owens. But anyway, look, let me say this first. If he really is serious about playing football, if he wants to excel at playing football, he has every right to do so if he wants to go out and try that. You know what I mean? If he wants to go out and be a great football player, or at least try to play football, whatever, I wish him luck on that. I do think it's a difference between playing football in the high school ranks and playing football in the NFL. I'm just saying I have my skepticism about this because this is a guy that just complained about how dunking hurts his wrist. And I know that dunking hurts their wrists. I know that there's contact in basketball, but I've just never openly heard a star player complain about that. I mean, yeah, Dennis Rodman, who talked about how he loved to have his nose broken in games. It makes him feel alive. So these guys usually are wired differently. So for hear a guy complain about his wrist hurting, I mean, it just, I don't know, it just kind of make me think, you sure about this? You sure you want to play football? We just saw what happened to Deshaun Watson. The risk of injury goes way up in football. It's pretty much something that will happen to you if you play football. It's not something a question of if. You will get injured. Hopefully it's not a broken bone. And we all know the long-term risk of playing football and brain injuries. So I'm just saying, if you're serious about this, fine. You know what I'm saying? I wish you success. But, you know, I just have my skepticism about whether he's really, really serious or whether he's just talking. You know? But, you know, this is the thing a lot of these modern-day athletes do. They like to talk. They like to put stuff out there on social media and have their name trend so that this gets pushed to them on social media so that the talking heads on TV talk about them on social media. People like myself and way bigger content creators talk about them on social media. And also, I kind of wonder if the little Michael Jordan comparison thing got something to do with this too. We all know in 1993, on the heels of winning his third consecutive championship, which made him the first superstar since Bill Russell in 1966 to win at least three championships in a row, something that Magic Johnson and Larry Bird hadn't done before. He abruptly retired from the game and went out and played baseball, which is something that he actually played when he was younger, Michael Jordan. Now, of course, his father was unalived brutally and in the summer, and that may have something to do with it, obviously. And I know what the speculation is about that. Excuse me. I know what the speculation is about that when it comes to Mike and the gambling stuff. But I wonder if there's like a little bit of motivation behind that, since he's always compared with Mike. He's trying to mimic or emulate Mike, going to play another sport after winning a title. But the difference between Michael Jordan and Ant is Jordan was driven by competition and driven to be seen as the best. And what was driving him was the perception that he was not as great as his contemporaries, Magic and Larry. Magic had won back-to-back. Bird had not. To win three in a row was something that they had never done before. So when he did that, that was an accomplishment that he had made that they hadn't. When his father was unalived, one of the things that I think his father wanted him to do, if I'm not mistaken, was to try baseball again, which was his first love. So he was motivated partially by that, right? Now, I want to delve into something that kind of bothers me. This perception that Michael Jordan was terrible in baseball. Got to remember that he hadn't played baseball since he was 12 years old, 12 or 13 years old. He was now 30 years old. And I think when he started playing, he was 31. I think he had just turned 31. This is a really late age to all of a sudden start playing baseball on a semi-professional level. Well, professional level, because they're getting paid, right? So to play, even though it's a lower level, it's professional baseball. Whether you want to acknowledge it or not, it's not the major leagues, but it's a farm team or what's the word I'm looking for? It's a farm club, I guess, whatever you want to call it, of the Chicago, I think, White Sox. So there are professional leagues. This is a different beast, okay? To just have somebody go from being pretty much perceived as the greatest basketball player the game has ever seen to all of a sudden go into a totally different sport that he hadn't played in years, decades. Yes, he batted 202. Yes, he batted 202. Okay, but I do want to remind people of something. This perception that Michael Jordan was awful is not true. As a matter of fact, he was getting better. He was getting better before he was drawn out of playing baseball and coming out of retirement and playing for the Chicago Bulls. Remember, Scottie Pippen, the supposed leader of the Bulls, Jordan haters will have you believe, was begging Michael Jordan to come back. Begging him to come back. Because people love to talk about that 55-win season. But people forget that team was vastly different even from the year before. And Horace Grant and B.J. Armstrong had career years, as did Scottie Pippen. And the Bulls won a lot of games that were decided within the margin of 6 points. But when Horace Grant left the very next year, they struggled. And the Bulls were 35-31 when Michael Jordan returned. 34-31, excuse me, when he returned. As a matter of fact, at sometime in February '95, I'm not mistaken, the Bulls were under 500. But anyway, this is about this is a fellow baseball player named Chris Treby, who's playing baseball at that time and competed against Michael Jordan in '94, '95. This is what he said. He said, quote, about Michael Jordan as far as whether he would have made the big leagues. He said, quote, I would never say he wouldn't have made it. The improvement we all witnessed over that year and the athlete he was and the work ethic he had, I think he would have had a chance. How long they would have taken, I don't know. Another Scorpions teammate, Michael Tucker, though, believes he got started too late to develop into a real prospect. If you gave him 2 or 3 more years, he would have been a solid player. He may have gotten a chance because of who he was, but in the time frame he was trying to do all this in and the age he was, I don't think it was going to happen. One thing everyone agrees on is that he was clearly improving. A batter has less than half a second to get a rounded bat to meet a round ball that's sliding, curving, cutting, and sliding. It's hard enough for a player who's seen tens of thousands of pitches over the course of their lifetime. That Jordan struggled at first to do it after not playing for 13 years is understandable. But he started to get better. So they said 13 years. So he was 31, 13. Okay, so he hadn't played since high school. Okay. But he started to get better. While he barely cleared the Mendoza line with Birmingham, he did hit 260 over the last month of the season. His average at Scottsdale was in the 280s before injuries started to take their toll. He finished the Arizona Fall League with a 252 average. When he found he was late to fastballs, he adjusted. When he struggled with curveballs, he focused on picking up the spin of the ball, something that comes naturally to a pro. And while he still caught the ball with both arms extended, like catching a football, he was starting to pick up the intricacies of playing in the field. White Sox general manager Ron Schuler told the Chicago Tribune in November of 1995, I believe it was, he's made a lot of, 94, excuse me, he's made a lot of improvement. When you think about it, it hasn't even been 1 year since he started playing baseball. He still makes some mistakes, but his bat speed is better, and he's learned things such as throwing to the right base. Another thing, and Ticket alluded to this in his live stream, people got to understand that Michael Jordan came into playing baseball with the body structure of a basketball player. Basketball players, their bodies are more built towards speed and the up and down pace of a basketball game, uh, jumping and things of that nature, right? Baseball players, their bodies musculature is more structured for the marathon. They play 162 games over between the months of April through September or early October. That's a lot of games. Baseball players tend to have strong cores. They tend to have a little bit more denser muscle structure. You may recall Michael Jordan, when he came out of retirement, he was a little bit thicker. His body was different. He always, even when he got more into basketball shape, he retained being a little bit bigger. Now, some of that was age, but he lost a little something. Okay, playing baseball changed his body structure. So when he came back in '95, one of the things that we noticed was that he started strong in games, but often faltered. Why? Because his endurance had changed to the point where his endurance was made more for to play a more somewhat leisurely pace of a baseball game. You know what I'm saying? Not saying that these guys aren't great athletes, but they aren't conditioned to play a 48-hour game. He didn't have the wind that he once had. So he was getting tired down the stretch. that affected his shooting. That's part of why, including the rust, why he shot 41% from the floor during that 17-game stretch when he came back to basketball. But you may recall, as he got in better shape, as was the case as he getting better with repetition and practice with baseball, he got better. In the playoffs, he shot 48% from the floor in 95, averaged 31 points a game. In the regular season, 41% shooting, 26.9 points per game. See what I'm saying? And also another reason why he was dragged so much was, you got to remember, as I said before, this is the greatest basketball player of all time. So unless you replicate that in Major League Baseball, it's going to be a disappointment in comparison. So because he actually struggled, we had never seen Michael Jordan struggle before. He looked human. Did some of the criticism go overboard? Yes. What was it? ESPN, I think it was, that told him, or was it Sports Illustrated? I forget. One of the two. I think it was Sports Illustrated. Told him to go bag it, to quit. And Michael Jordan, the competitor he was, he never forgave him for that. But yeah, all I'm saying is, if Ant is serious about this, if he's serious, I support him. But some of these dudes just be talking, man. And also, you got to remember this before I finish this video. If a person totally focuses on a sport, most of these great athletes could dominate that sport. I have no doubt in my mind that Danny Ainge, a lot of people don't know this, Danny Ainge was a 3-sport star in high school. He played in college, I believe, too. But I know in high school he was a 3-sport star. They always talk about all these plumbers. And it always amazes me, and I laugh when I see these know-nothings show a picture of Danny Ainge and Michael Jordan. Oh, this guy played against plumber. You don't know what the fuck you talking about. Danny Ainge was a 3-sport star. He was an all-star in Major League, in the NBA. He played, 3 seasons? I think 3 seasons for the Toronto Blue Jays. He was a star, I think, quarterback in high school for football. They don't know what they're talking about. Tom Chambers could jump out of the gym when he was younger. Deion Sanders, who the gargantuan gourmand Jason Whitlock have a nerd to criticize, Deion Sanders would have won World Series MVP if the Braves had won in 92 against the Blue Jays. Bo Jackson was an all-star playing for the name of the team he played for? The Royals. The Kansas City Royals. He was an all-star. If they had focused on baseball 100% full time, they would have been great. Now, I don't know if Michael Jordan would have been a great all-star level baseball player, but I think he would have been good. I think he's one of those guys that had he started playing from age 18 onward, I think he would have been a really good baseball player. I tend to think he would have been a better defensive player. I think he would have won some. I'm speculating right here, but I think he would have been a guy who would have been a little bit streaky hitting. I don't know if he would ever hit for a lot of power, but I think he could have been a potentially really good to great defensive player. You know what I'm saying? I could see him playing right field, or I don't know if he'd have been great at playing center field, covering that much territory, but I could see him being a really good defensive left fielder or right fielder. And maybe if he played in the 90s, I could see a guy like him, if he reaches peak potential, maybe hitting 260, 270, 25 home runs, maybe 80, 90 RBI. You know, I could see that. Maybe. But more than likely 240, 230, maybe 15 to 20 home runs, 70 RBI. But you've been good. Now, Bo Jackson and Deion Sanders, those guys were on a whole nother level when it came to playing baseball. I also want to give a shout out to one of the other great multi-sports stars, the OG I said Otis Thorpe, Jim Thorpe, great athlete. Look him up if you have a chance. And of course, Will Chamberlain. Will Chamberlain wasn't just a great basketball player; he was a great athlete. He's a Hall of Fame basketball player. He could have been a Hall of Fame volleyball player. He could have been a Hall of Fame Olympian athlete, gold medal athlete. He could have been a gold medal shot putter. He could have been a high jumper. He could have did track and field. He was a great athlete. Same thing with Bill Russell. Bill Russell in 1956, before he was drafted by the Boston Celtics, he was ranked number 7 in the world as far as an Olympic level athlete in the high jump. He never participated in it, but he was projected to be, if he participated, a top 10 prospect in that field. Remember, there's footage of him on YouTube, and once Inside the NBA showed it, of him in the fast break in 1956, I think it was, 56, 57 season, jumping over a player in a fast break situation. Jumping over a guy. Not while he's dunking, but jumping over him. I think it was going for a loose ball. I think he jumped over the guy or something like that. This guy had tremendous vertical leap, like 40 inches. Only paling in comparison to Will Chamberlain, who was on another trajectory with like a 48, 50-inch vertical leap in his prime. But anyway, everybody back then was plumbers according to these know-nothings. Wish Anthony Edwards, the best if he's sincere about this. And tell me what you guys think.